Every zebra on Earth wears a coat that has never existed before and will never exist again. A pattern as unique as a human fingerprint, painted in the most striking black and white nature has ever imagined. And here's what makes that even more wonderful. Scientists spent over a century arguing about whether zebras are white animals with black stripes or black animals with white stripes. The answer, it turns out, is genuinely surprising. There is so much more to these iconic creatures than their beautiful, dazzling coats. Stories written in their stripes, in their bonds with one another, in the way they move across the ancient grasslands of Africa like a living, breathing work of art. So settle in, get comfortable, and let's wander together into the world of the zebra. Welcome back to Sleepy Sycamore, where we explore the peaceful wonders of the natural world. Let's begin at the beginning, with the zebra itself. Picture the African savanna in the early morning. The sun is just lifting above the horizon, painting the sky in soft golds and pinks, and the tall, dry grass catches the light like it's been dipped in honey. And moving through that grass in a slow, unhurried way are zebras. Their stripes catch the light, their breath makes little clouds in the cool morning air. And there is something about them, something ancient and calm and deeply beautiful that stops you in your tracks. Zebras belong to the genus Equus, which makes them close relatives of horses and donkeys. In fact, if you watch a zebra move, the way it holds its head, the gentle swing of its neck as it walks, you can see that family resemblance so clearly. They are in many ways wild horses who simply happen to wear the most extraordinary outfit in the animal kingdom. Now, there are 3 living species of zebra, and it's worth taking a moment to meet each of them because they are all wonderful in their own right. The plains zebra, sometimes called Burchell's zebra, is the most numerous, the most widespread, and the one most people picture when they think of a zebra. They are stocky, social animals that roam in enormous herds across sub-Saharan Africa. Then there is the mountain zebra, a slightly more compact creature built for navigating rocky, rugged terrain in the mountains and plateaus of southern and southwestern Africa. And finally, there is Grevy's zebra, the largest of the 3, with very narrow, closely packed stripes and enormous rounded ears that give it an almost donkey-like quality. Grevy's zebra is sadly the most endangered of the 3, with only a few thousand remaining in the wild in Kenya and Ethiopia. Each of these 3 species has its own personality, its own social structure, its own way of moving through the world. And isn't that something that within what we casually call zebras, there are 3 distinct and different lives being lived? Nature never does things just one way, does it? Let me paint you a picture of what a zebra actually looks like up close, because photographs don't always do justice to the reality. They are larger than many people expect. A full-grown plains zebra can stand about 4.5 feet tall at the shoulder and weigh up to 770 pounds. Their legs are strong and slender, their muzzles are long and soft-looking, their eyes are large and dark and set wide on the sides of their heads, which is helpful because it gives them an almost panoramic field of vision, letting them spot danger from nearly any direction. And then there are the stripes. Up close, they are breathtaking. The lines are crisp and clean, flowing smoothly across the body, narrowing and widening and curving as they follow the contours of muscle and bone. On the face, the stripes seem to radiate outward from the nose like the spokes of a wheel. On the legs, they become fine and parallel, almost like the grain of a piece of beautiful wood. And on the belly, they soften and sometimes fade entirely into a creamy white. Every single stripe on every single zebra is different. No 2 animals share the same pattern. How wonderful is that? Now here's the interesting part. Let's talk about those stripes, because they have been one of the great mysteries of zoology for a very long time. Why does a zebra have stripes? You'd think, standing there in the open grassland, that black and white stripes would make a zebra absolutely impossible to miss. And against a plain background, that's true. But nature, as always, is far more clever than it first appears. For many years, the leading theory was camouflage. The idea that in tall grass, with light filtering through in broken patterns, the stripes might help break up the zebra's outline and make it harder for predators to see. And there is some truth to this, particularly in woodland environments. But in the open savanna, a zebra in a herd is still a zebra. They are not invisible. So scientists kept looking and kept wondering, and gradually a more nuanced picture emerged. One fascinating line of evidence points toward temperature regulation. The black stripes absorb heat from the sun, while the white stripes reflect it. And here something remarkable happens. This difference in temperature on either side of each stripe creates tiny microscopic air currents that flow across the zebra's skin, almost like a personal breeze. Like a built-in air conditioning system, written right into the coat itself. Isn't nature something? But the theory that has gained the most compelling scientific support in recent years is one that very few people would have guessed. It turns out the stripes may primarily be a defense against flies. Specifically biting flies, horseflies and tsetse flies, which are a genuine and serious threat to large animals in Africa. They carry disease, they cause blood loss, and they are relentless. And experiments have shown quite convincingly that biting flies avoid landing on striped surfaces. The stripes seem to confuse or disrupt the visual signals that flies use to find their targets. Researchers in Hungary and Sweden ran experiments with striped and plain-colored models and with horses dressed in striped coats, and the results were striking. Flies landed far less often on striped surfaces than on plain ones. Even more fascinatingly, studies in Africa found that zebras living in areas with higher fly populations tend to have more intricate, more densely packed stripes. As if evolution has been quietly fine-tuning the pattern over millions of years in direct response to the flies. Let me tell you, when I first learned that, I sat with it for a while, because it's one of those facts that makes the world feel wonderfully connected, where something as everyday as an annoying fly turns out to have shaped the appearance of one of Earth's most iconic animals. Now, the stripes may serve multiple purposes at once, which is very often how nature works. There is also evidence that stripes help zebras recognize one another, that the unique pattern on each individual acts as a kind of identity badge within the herd. And there is the dazzle effect, which is particularly interesting. When a group of zebras runs together in a panicking herd, all those black and white patterns overlapping and shifting and blurring together can make it genuinely difficult for a predator to focus on a single individual. It becomes hard to track one zebra when dozens of striped bodies are moving together. It's visual chaos, intentional, beautiful, life-saving visual chaos. Now we come to what I think is one of the most lovely things about zebras, the way they live together and what their social lives look like. You see, zebras are deeply social creatures. They are not solitary animals who happen to gather in groups. They genuinely need one another, and the bonds they form are real and lasting. The basic social unit of the plain zebra is called a harem group, though that name is a little misleading because it makes it sound more dramatic than it is. It's simply a small family group consisting of one adult male, called a stallion, several adult females, and their young offspring. These groups are stable over many years. The mares and their foals form the emotional core of the group, and they maintain close, consistent relationships with one another. They groom each other, standing side by side and nibbling gently at each other's necks and manes, taking care of the places that are hardest to reach alone. If you ever have the chance to watch zebras grooming, it is one of the most quietly tender things you will ever see. The stallion's role is primarily protective. He stays at the edges of the group, watchful, alert, ready to place himself between his family and danger. When predators approach, it is often the stallion who faces them down, who buys time for the mares and foals to flee. There is a quiet dignity in that. Foals, baby zebras, are born able to stand within about 20 minutes of birth, which is one of those facts that never stops being astonishing. Within an hour, they can walk. Within a few hours, they can run well enough to keep up with the herd. This rapid development is absolutely necessary in a world where lions and hyenas and wild dogs are always near. The foal's stripes are actually brown and white at birth, gradually darkening to black over the first weeks of life. And from the moment of birth, the mother works to ensure her foal memorizes her specific stripe pattern, moving to block other zebras from getting close in those first crucial hours, so the foal imprints on her and her alone. Now, individual family groups don't live in isolation. They gather into larger herds, sometimes numbering in the hundreds or even the thousands during migrations. And here, something beautiful happens. The family groups within a herd maintain their cohesion even in a crowd. They know each other, they travel together, they drink together, and zebras often form friendships and associations with other species as well, particularly wildebeest, with whom they share the plains in vast numbers during the great migrations of East Africa. You see, wildebeest and zebras make excellent companions. Zebras crop the tall, coarse grass first, which then allows wildebeest to reach the shorter, more nutritious grass below. And together, their combined numbers mean more eyes watching for predators, more ears listening for danger. It is a partnership built over millennia between two species that simply figured out through the slow patience of evolution that life is easier and safer when you travel with good company. There is something gentle and lovely about that idea, I think. Let's take a moment to appreciate where zebras actually live, because their range tells its own story. Plains zebras, the most numerous species, are found across a broad band of sub-Saharan Africa, from Ethiopia and South Sudan in the northeast, down through Kenya and Tanzania, and south through Zambia, Zimbabwe, and into southern Africa. They are animals of the open grassland and the savanna, landscapes of wide sky and sweeping grass, punctuated by acacia trees standing like gentle sculptures against the horizon. Mountain zebras inhabit a very different world. They are found in the mountainous areas of Namibia, Angola, and South Africa, navigating steep rocky terrain with surprising sure-footedness. Their hooves are harder and more pointed than those of plains zebras, adapted over generations for gripping rock. They tend to live in smaller groups and range over wider areas in search of water and the grasses that grow in those highlands. And Grevy's zebra inhabits the arid and semi-arid areas of northern Kenya and southern Ethiopia, a landscape of scrub and dry grassland and scattered thorn bush, where water is scarce and temperatures are extreme. Grevy's zebras have a different social structure from the other two species. Males are largely territorial, while females roam more freely with their foals, associating with different males as they move through their range. It is a more solitary existence in some ways, and perhaps fitting for such a harsh landscape. One of the most spectacular wildlife events in the world involves zebras, the Great Migration of East Africa, specifically in the Serengeti Mara ecosystem spanning Tanzania and Kenya. Imagine this: somewhere between 1 and 2 million wildebeest, joined by several 100,000 zebras, moving in a great continuous loop across the landscape, following the rains, following the grass, following an ancient instinct that hasn't changed in thousands of years. This is not a neat, organized procession. It is vast and chaotic and alive. Columns of animals stretching across the grassland as far as the eye can see, the sound of hooves on dry earth like distant thunder, dust rising in great plumes, rivers to cross, where crocodiles wait in the murky water, predators following at the edges. And through all of this, the zebras move with a kind of calm purpose, in their family groups, calling to each other in soft, dog-like barks and whinnies, keeping together, moving on. If you were there, standing at the edge of that migration, the feeling would be something very close to awe. It is one of those rare experiences that connects you to something very deep and very old, the sense that this world was here long before us, doing magnificent things, and that we are simply lucky enough to witness it. Now, let's wander into some of the more quietly wonderful facts about zebras, the details that tend to surprise people, and that I think deserve a moment of appreciation. Zebras are, at their core, grazing animals. They spend a large portion of each day eating grass, and their digestive systems are built for it. Unlike many other large herbivores on the savanna, zebras can digest lower quality, tougher grasses more efficiently, which means they can thrive in areas where other grazers struggle. Their teeth are large and continuously growing, which is important when your diet is essentially made of tiny silica blades that wear your teeth down over time. They are also quite vocal, which many people don't realize. Zebras communicate with a range of sounds: a high-pitched, almost dog-like bark when alarmed, soft whinnies and nickers when greeting each other, and a particular two-syllable call, often transliterated as kwaha, that sounds wonderfully cheerful and has led some to nickname them the laughing horse of Africa. Each zebra's voice is individual, and mothers and foals can recognize each other by sound alone across a noisy, crowded herd. Zebras can run at speeds of up to about 40 miles per hour, fast, but not as fast as their main predator, the lion, over a short distance. Their real defense against predators is their endurance, their agility, and the safety of numbers. A zebra fleeing a lion will run in a zigzagging pattern, changing direction unpredictably, which makes it very difficult to follow. And a zebra's kick is genuinely powerful, strong enough to cause serious injury to even a large predator. They are not passive prey. They fight when they must. Sleep is something interesting in zebras, as it is in all horses. They can doze lightly while standing, thanks to a locking mechanism in their legs called the stay apparatus, which allows them to rest their muscles without falling over. But truly deep sleep, the kind with dreams, the kind with REM, requires lying down. And zebras will only do this when they feel genuinely safe, when there are others awake and watchful around them. There is something quietly touching about that a zebra lying down in deep sleep is a zebra that trusts the world around it, even if just for a little while. The relationship between zebras and their environment extends in fascinating directions. As grazers who move across vast distances, they play an important role in shaping the landscape. By cropping and cycling through grass, they help maintain the health of grassland ecosystems. Their dung fertilizes the soil. The paths they wear through the landscape over generations create corridors that other animals use. They are connected to everything around them in ways that are often invisible but always important. Water is precious on the African savanna, and zebras are remarkably good at finding it. They have been observed digging in dry riverbeds with their hooves to reach subsurface water, an intelligent and practical behavior that benefits not just themselves, but the many smaller animals who can't dig, who come to drink from what the zebras have opened up. In the dry season, entire ecosystems can depend on these small acts of excavation. Isn't that something? A zebra, just looking for a drink, inadvertently sustaining a whole community of life. There is a human dimension to the story of zebras that I think is worth sitting with for a while. These animals have shared the African landscape with human beings for a very long time. They appear in ancient rock paintings across southern Africa, some of which are many thousands of years old. Evidence that our ancestors looked at zebras the same way we do today, with something like wonder, with a desire to capture and hold on to that beauty. For the indigenous peoples of Africa, zebras have been woven into culture and life for countless generations, as a source of hides, as subjects of storytelling and tradition, as simply a constant presence in the world. And for many African communities today, zebras are a living part of the heritage of the land. One of the reasons the savanna matters, one of the reasons it should be protected. In terms of conservation, the picture is mixed, as it so often is. Plains zebras are not currently classified as endangered. Their populations, while reduced from historic levels, number in the hundreds of thousands, and they are protected in many national parks and reserves across their range. But they face real pressures: habitat loss as grassland is converted to farmland, competition with livestock for water and grazing, and in some areas, hunting. Mountain zebras were once critically endangered, reduced to just a few hundred individuals in the early 20th century, and have recovered somewhat through careful conservation work, a genuine success story, though they remain vulnerable. And Grevy's zebra remains in serious trouble, with fewer than 3,000 individuals estimated to remain in the wild. Conservation efforts for zebras often work in concert with broader efforts to protect entire ecosystems, the grasslands and savannas that are among the most biodiverse and important landscapes on Earth. When we protect zebras, we protect the lions that depend on them, the vultures that clean up after a kill, the dung beetles that process their waste, the grasses that recover from their grazing. It is all one thing, woven together. And then there is the simple, irreplaceable fact of what it means for a child, anywhere in the world, to grow up knowing that somewhere out there, On the wide golden plains of Africa, a herd of zebras is moving through the morning light, each one wearing a coat like no other coat that has ever existed, each one moving with the patient dignity of an animal that has been here, living well and living beautifully for millions of years. That matters. That is worth protecting. And so, we have wandered together through the world of the zebra, from the mystery of those extraordinary stripes, to the tender bonds of family life on the savanna, to the thundering spectacle of the Great Migration, to the quiet act of a zebra digging for water in a dry riverbed, sustaining life it doesn't even know it's sustaining. Nature never ceases to amaze, does it? There's always something more to find, always another layer of wonder tucked inside what seemed like a simple thing. A black and white animal on a golden plain turns out to be a masterpiece of evolution, a cornerstone of an ecosystem, and a mirror in which we can see our own deep longing to be part of something wild and ancient and enduring. Thank you so much for spending this time with me tonight on Sleepy Sycamore. If this gentle journey brought you a little peace, I'd love to have you back for the next one. Until then, rest well and dream of wide open skies.